The night Will Byers vanished, only one person actually saw what took him. And that person was dead 3 days later. In a small ghost town, the Hawkins lab knew exactly what they had unleashed. But the real question isn't what escaped from the lab. It's who they were hiding inside it. What you're about to share ain't just a story about monsters. It's about what happens when ordinary kids face extraordinary horrors and discover powers they never knew they had. Season 1, November 6th, 1983. Four best friends are huddled in a basement around a Dungeons & Dragons campaign. Dice rolling, monster hunting. A night like any other in Hawkins, Indiana. Until it wasn't. Biking home alone, 12-year-old Will Byers encounters something impossible. A faceless creature that sends him fleeing into the night. He makes it home, locks the door, loads a rifle. But whatever's hunting him isn't stopped by walls. In an instant, Will vanishes without a scream. His mother Joyce knows something is wrong. His brother Jonathan, an outsider who sees the world through a camera lens, starts searching. Chief Jim Hopper, drowning his daughter's death in pills and alcohol, reluctantly begins to investigate. But this is no ordinary missing person case. Miles away at the Hawkins National Laboratory, scientists in hazmat suits examine a pulsating organic growth on the wall, a portal leaking between dimensions. The same night Will disappeared, something else escaped from the lab. A child with a shaved head, a hospital gown, and the number 011 tattooed on her wrist. When Will's friends, Mike, Dustin, and Lucas search the woods, they find this girl instead. Rain-soaked, terrified, and barely able to speak. She tells them her name is 11, and when she sees Will's photo, she points and whispers one chilling word: gone. Joyce's house becomes a paranormal hotspot. Phones ring with breathing on the other end. Christmas lights flicker in patterns. The wall between dimensions thins until she can almost touch her son through it. She strings up alphabet lights, creating a Ouija board that Will uses from somewhere he calls the Upside Down. Meanwhile, Mike's teenage sister Nancy searches for her missing friend Barb, who vanished sitting alone by Steve Harrington's pool. Dragged into darkness by the same creature that took Will, 3 desperate searches converge. The kids with their bikes and Eleven's telekinetic powers, Joyce and Hopper digging into the lab's dark history, and Nancy and Jonathan hunting the monster itself. The most chilling discovery? 11 wasn't just a victim. Raised from birth by Dr. Martin Brenner, a cold scientist she calls Papa, she was pushed to develop psychic abilities, spying on targets around the world. During one experiment, she encountered something ancient in the void, something hungry. In her terror, she tore open the veil between worlds. In other words, she created the gate. Hopper breaks into Hawkins' lab, discovering Will's body in the quarry was a fake, a dummy planted to close the case. The kids realize the Demogorgon hunts like a shark, drawn to blood, moving between dimensions to feed. In the chaos that follows, Dr. Brenner's men close in, hunting for 11. The Demogorgon attacks the school where they're hiding, drawn by blood from multiple wounds. Goodbye, Mike. 11 whispers before confronting the monster directly. Using every ounce of her power, she obliterates the Demogorgon, seemingly disintegrating herself in the process. Hopper and Joyce enter the Upside Down through the lab's portal, finding Will imprisoned in organic webbing, a vine down his throat. They bring him home, apparently saving him. 1 month later, Christmas lights twinkle in cleaned-up home. Will is back. Nancy chooses Steve over Jonathan. Hopper leaves Eggos in a box in the woods. Everyone's pretending things are normal. But as Will excuses himself from dinner, coughing up a slug-like creature in the bathroom sink, one thing becomes perfectly clear. The Upside Down isn't finished with Hawkins, it's just getting started. Season 2. What do you do after surviving a monster? You pretend everything's fine. October 1984. 1 year after the Demogorgon, Hawkins pretends to heal, only that something far worse is spreading. Will Byers keeps it hidden at first. The episodes where he slips between realities, seeing flashes of a blood-red landscape and a massive shadow monster with tentacles crawling across the sky. His mother hovers, worried. His friends try to distract him with Halloween plans and arcade games, but Will isn't the only one keeping secrets. 11 is alive, hidden away in a cabin in the woods by Hopper, who's become her surrogate father. She's restless, missing Mike, watching soap operas, and sneaking out to spy on him with her powers. Their makeshift family teeters between warmth and explosive argument. A grieving father learning to parent again, a traumatized girl learning to trust. New players arrive in Hawkins. Max Mayfield, a fiery California skater girl who catches Lucas and Dustin's attention, and her stepbrother Billy Hargrove, whose cruelty masks deeper wound. Then Dustin makes a fateful discovery, a small, slug-like creature he names D'Artagnan, aka Dart. It purrs like a cat, eats nougat, and grows at an impossible rate, developing multiple legs and a flower petal face that opens to reveal rows of teeth. A baby Demogorgon. It's not alone. Beneath Hawkins, tunnels spread from the lab like veins, an ecosystem of the Upside Down growing through the soil. When farmers' pumpkin patches rot and die, Hopper investigates, falling into this network and nearly dying from the toxic air. Will's connection to the shadow monster, now called the Mind Flayer, intensifies. It doesn't just show him visions. It possesses him, using his body as a spy into our world. He likes it cold, Will whispers as the temperature drops across town. The laboratory, now run by the seemingly reasonable doctor. Owens tries to help, but they're outmatched. The Mind Flayer wants in, and it's found its door. No one realized how vulnerable they were until the night of the massacre. The Demodogs, controlled by the Mind Flayer, breach the lab, tearing through guards and scientists. In the chaos, Bob Newby, Joyce's kind-hearted boyfriend who works at Radio Shack, sacrifices himself to save the others, torn apart by the creatures as Joyce watches in horror. With Will completely taken over, the group retreats to the buyer's house, now transformed into a maze of maps tracking the tunnels. They realize Will isn't Will anymore. He's the Mind Flayer's puppet, revealing their every move. They restrain him in Hopper's cabin, cranking up the heat and bombarding his possessed mind with memories, trying to reach the real Will underneath. In his mind, Will taps out a desperate message in Morse code: "Close gate." Just as all seems lost, 11 returns from a side quest to find her mother and sister, who is simply another test subject with the power to create illusions. With newfound purpose, she rejoins the group for the final stand. The plan splits. Joyce and Jonathan exorcise the Mind Flayer from Will with extreme heat, while Hopper escorts 11 back to the lab. Dustin, Steve, and the others lure the Demodogs away through the tunnels, setting fire to the heart of the network. At the gate, now a towering, pulsating rift, 11 summons every ounce of her power. Blood streams from her nose as she forces the tier between worlds to seal itself, severing the Mind Flayer's connection and killing the Demodogs instantly. The snowball dance in December gives the kids a moment of normalcy. Mike and 11 share their first real dance. Lucas and Max kiss. Nancy takes pity on a rejected Dustin, giving him the confidence boost he needed. But as they celebrate, the Mind Flayer looms over the upside-down version of the school watching. The gate is closed, but the monster remains. And this time, it remembered. Season 3, summer 1985, brings neon lights, ice cream, and young love to Hawkins. The Soviet Union brings something else entirely. The new Starcourt Mall dominates the town, putting small businesses on life support while drawing teenagers like moths to its fluorescent glow. Steve Harrington, former king of Hawkins High, now scoops ice cream alongside sarcastic Robin Buckley. 11 and Mike spend every possible moment kissing, much to Hopper's growing frustration. On the surface, it's the perfect American summer. But underneath Starcourt, Soviet scientists operate a massive machine with one goal: reopening the gate that 11 closed. The Cold War just went supernatural. Strange things begin happening across town. Joyce notices magnets falling off refrigerators, losing their magnetism. Rats behave erratically, consuming chemicals before exploding into masses of organic goo. Power fluctuates across the east side. Then, one night, Billy Hargrove, driving to meet a married woman for a rendezvous, crashes his car near an abandoned steel mill. He's dragged inside by something unseen. What emerges looks like Billy, talks like Billy, but isn't Billy anymore. The Mind Flayer has found a new host who's smarter, more mobile, and far more dangerous than Will ever was. One by one, residents of Hawkins are flayed, possessed by the Mind Flayer through Billy, before melting into flesh puddles that combine into something hideous. A massive, spider-like monstrosity made of melted humans, a physical form for the Mind Flayer in our world. Meanwhile, Dustin, returning from science camp with tales of a girlfriend named Susie that no one believes exists, intercepts Russian radio transmissions. With Steve, Robin, and Lucas's sharp-tongued little sister Erica, they crack the code and discover the Soviet base beneath the mall, breaking in through air ducts and finding themselves trapped in a facility full of armed guards. As Joyce and Hopper investigate the magnet, they capture a Soviet scientist named Alexei, turning to conspiracy theorist Murray Bauman to translate. The reluctant allies learn the truth. The Russians have been in Hawkins for months, building a machine to force open the gate. But the Mind Flayer has a specific target this time: 11. During a psychic encounter with the flayed Billy, the Mind Flayer implants a piece of itself in 11's leg. Though she pulls it out, screaming in pain, the encounter weakens her. For the first time, her powers begin to fail. It all converges on July 4th. At the fun fair, the Mind Flayer attacks, killing dozens. The monster pursues the kids to Starcourt Mall, where they make a desperate stand with fireworks as their only weapon. Hopper, Joyce, and Murray infiltrate the Russian base to shut down the machine, keeping the gate open. In the ensuing chaos, Hopper fights a Russian assassin near the gate machine. Knowing someone must stay behind to turn the keys, he nods to Joyce, accepting his fate as she shuts down the machine, which triggers an explosion that disintegrates everyone in the room. As the machine powers down, the Mind Flayer's connection weakens. Billy, breaking free of its control for a moment, sacrifices himself to protect Eleven, the monster's tentacles tearing through him, as Max watches in horror. The battle is won, but at a terrible cost. 3 months later, the Byers family, along with a now powerless Eleven, pack up to leave Hawkins. Joyce sells the house. The party is split. In a tearful goodbye, Mike promises Eleven they'll visit at Thanksgiving. But a mid-credits scene gives us a shocking truth. The American being held in a Russian prison is Hopper, alive but trapped thousands of miles from home. The Russians now have a Demogorgon. Season 4. If you thought the first 3 seasons of Stranger Things pushed the boundaries of horror, I'm about to prove you wrong. Season 4 doesn't just raise the stakes, it shatters them. March 1986. The wounds of Starcourt should be healing, but something darker is about to happen. We see California now, where Eleven, going by Jane, tries desperately to fit in at a new school. Remember what it felt like to be the new kid? Now imagine that with no superpowers to defend yourself as bullies circle like sharks. Meanwhile, Will Byers carries a painting everywhere, hiding it from everyone. Some secrets are too personal to share. Back in Hawkins, we witnessed the birth of something truly terrifying. Inside Eddie Munson's trailer, cheerleader Chrissy Cunningham's nightmare becomes reality. A grandfather clock materializes in the wall. Her eyes roll back. Her limbs snap backward at impossible angles. Her skull caves in. And just like that, the most brutal killer in Hawkins' history is born. You know those dreams where you're being chased but can't run? That's what Vecna's victims experience, except they never wake up. As bodies pile up in increasingly grotesque displays, we watch the town transform into something we all recognize. A community gripped by fear, looking for someone to blame. And who better than the leather-jacketed metalhead running the satanic D&D club? The satanic panic that swept through real American towns in the 80s finds its perfect vessel in Eddie Munson. Remember the isolation you felt during your darkest moments? That's where Max Mayfield lives now. Drowning in grief over Billy's death, she writes goodbye letters to everyone she loves. When the grandfather clock appears to her, it's almost a relief. But in the graveyard, floating in the air with her bones beginning to crack, something extraordinary happened. Kate Bush saves her life. Running up that hill through her headphones creates the most emotionally powerful scene in the entire series. A teenage girl fighting for her life by clinging to her happiest memory. Who hasn't had that one song that felt like it could save your soul? We follow Joyce and Murray on a wild journey to Russia, where actual matryoshka dolls hide secret messages. And prison guards feed prisoners to capture Demogorgons in gladiatorial combat. Hopper, bearded and gaunt, fights not just for survival, but for the chance to keep a promise to the daughter who waited for him. But the true heart of this season reveals itself in the most unexpected place. Inside Eleven's own repressed memory, we see a young girl, bullied and alone in a sterile laboratory, finding friendship with a kind orderly. We feel her confusion when that same friend reveals himself as Henry Creel, a psychic child who murdered his family decades ago. We witness her horror as he slaughters everyone in the Rainbow Room, blood streaming from their eyes. And when Eleven finally remembers the truth that she didn't just fight this monster, she created him by banishing him to the Upside Down. Everything we thought we knew about Stranger Things changes in an instant. Every trauma in Hawkins has fed his power. Every nightmare has strengthened his grip. As Nancy and the others discover the Upside Down is frozen on the day Will first disappeared, we realize a terrifying truth. Vecna, the Mind Flayer, and the Demogorgons have all been connected from the beginning, orchestrated by a vengeful intelligence that's been plotting Hawkins' destruction for years. All these separate stories collide in a desperate final battle across dimensions. We watch Eddie Munson standing on a trailer roof in the Upside Down, playing Metallica's Master of Puppets on his guitar, to draw demonic bats away from his friends. A glorious metal concert in hell itself. Despite their efforts, Vecna succeeds in opening 4 gates across Hawkins. The town splits apart, Eddie bleeds out far from home, dies a hero when everyone thought him a villain. Max's heart stops beating for a full minute before 11, reaching across hundreds of miles, restarts it, but her mind remains empty, a shell without its soul. 2 days later, as our heroes reunite at a relief center, You can feel the dread building. Ash falls from the sky like black snow. Plants shrivel and die on contact. The barrier between worlds isn't just breaking, it's dissolving. The Upside Down isn't trying to get in anymore, it's already here. As Will places his hand on his neck, feeling that familiar chill, we know Vecna isn't finished. He's just getting started. And in that moment, you realize why you've been holding your breath for the last 13 episodes. Because this isn't just a story about monsters from another dimension. It's about facing your own personal demons and realizing you don't have to face them alone. As the ground cracks and the sky darkens, one truth becomes clear. The gate isn't just open, it's everywhere. Season 5 will be the epic conclusion to the entire Stranger Things saga, focusing on the ultimate showdown between the Hawkins crew and Vecna, Sar the Upside Down. The goal is to finally defeat Vecna and seal off the Upside Down for good. The action will primarily return to Hawkins, Indiana, after the widespread devastation caused at the end of Season 4. There will be no more separate storylines in California or Russia, allowing the core group to face the threat together in one location. The season promises to get deeper into the origins and mythology of the Upside Down, answering long-standing questions about its connection to Hawkins and Vecna. Expect significant focus on the core characters, particularly Will Byers, whose connection to the Upside Down will be central to the plot. The season will also likely resolve the arcs of characters like Steve, Nancy, and Jonathan. In the end, there's more to Stranger Things than being just about monsters or government conspiracies or psychic powers. It's about friendship that survives the unthinkable. It's about families, both born and chosen. It's about growing up in a world that gets stranger and darker the older you get, yet facing those horrors together. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos like this and comment what TV show you want me to cover next. Until next time!